About to make this happen, man. Push some waves, you know what I'm saying? Turn some wind. We gonna go back to some of that old school shit.
Slum Village, an American rap group active since the mid-90s. Originally featuring J Dilla, Baatin, and T3. Today's feature is a very interesting whirlwind ride of revolving doors, abandonment, fight for ownership and acknowledgement, mental breakdowns, drug use, and even death. The story of Slum Village is one that can be difficult to understand with all the moving parts and deeply rooted history that can't fully be understood by just research. What I do realize is that they were once a talented group of 3 guys that wanted success for themselves first, but couldn't understand that they needed one another to have it. When you hear the name Slum Village, immediately you think of the infamous J Dilla, a producer and MC revered from a distance when alive, that bloomed into infamy, and all of a sudden he's the greatest thing since Beat Machines when he died. It happens all the time in life, and Slum Village were no different. In my honest opinion, I can't help but wonder what would Slum Village be if Dilla hadn't transitioned. Would Baatin be hooked on drugs and suffer a mental breakdown anyway? Would T3 be happy he doesn't have to scrounge around trying to find replacement after replacement to keep the Slum Village name alive and the lights on? Would hip-hop even care about Slum Village, the group, as more than a failed Tribe Called Quest that foundationally didn't have what it took to carry the torch they convinced the underground they were worthy and ready to? Hypothetically, so much could change, but we can't change history and what actually happened. If nothing else, Slum Village were believed in, embraced, tried their best to keep it going even after losing 2/3 of its members and having to thereafter mainly be recognized because of the greatness of J Dilla. More than talent for me, Slum Village does have a story. One that's a great example of why the hip-hop group has officially failed to last the test of time. Everyone wants to be recognized for their work in simple everyday life. As artists, recognition can become like food you eat 3 times a day. You need it, it fuels you, and it's laborious to share with someone else. Slum Village was next up if somehow they found a way to work together early on and stayed consistent throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. They released 9 studio albums, with T3 the only surviving original member for all that never quite reached their full potential on the charts, nor the impact expected when the group was initially discovered. What happened to Slum Village? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it.
Y'all ready to keep this thing moving?
Slum Village is a hip-hop group originating in Detroit, Michigan, whose original members T3, Baatin, and J Dilla were beginning to make waves in the late 90s. The 3 members grew up together in a neighborhood called Conant Gardens. They went to the same high school and all shared an interest for alternative hip-hop like A Tribe Called Quest, The Far Side, De La Soul, etc. They gained an underground following locally in Detroit, and in '96 recorded their debut album that was supposed to release a year later. Instead, was shelved by their label and actually didn't release until 9 years after. In 2000, they released a second album called Fantastic Volume 2 that featured many artists that went on to have major hip-hop success like Busta Rhymes and Common, and was the final album the original 3 would be there to work on. Stunt number 1, losing J Dilla. Slum Village, the group, lost J Dilla twice. The first time he left was in 2001 after their second album released, and a time Slum Village may have been at their peak as far as underground recognition. J Dilla, as a producer up to that point, had worked with hip-hop royalty, handpicked to join a group of producers for A Tribe Called Quest on their final 2 albums. Dilla was always like the spirit of Slum Village even today, and provided the soul Baatin and T3 rapped over. Him leaving in 2001 to pursue his own solo career as a producer and rapper, releasing his debut album Welcome to Detroit the same year, was a hit they almost didn't recover from. It left Slum Village at an early crossroads. They were expected to become the new era's Tribe Called Quest, but losing main members basically one album in threatened everything they had worked for up to that point, including label deals on the table, expecting there to be a Slum Village. The remaining members continued to work on their highly anticipated third album, adding Elzhi, a young Detroit rapper that appeared on J Dilla's debut album to finish the project. Album 3 releases and becomes their highest charting album to date, including the Kanye West featured track Selfish, produced by Kanye West coming off the success of his debut album College Dropout. Selfish is today Slum Village's most popular song. Although the remaining group bounced back to make an acclaimed album, J Dilla leaving hurt their trajectory, and instead of becoming legendary like they would have before Dilla left, they became a group in hindsight known for the contributions of J Dilla's legacy. A revolving door began to be the Slum Village brand as new member after new member came and went, everyone wanting to stake their claim to the Slum Village name and eat off whatever the remains. J Dilla would leave them a second time, of course, in his passing in 2006, one that gave Slum a growth spurt, but also attached their name to a footnote of J Dilla's legacy forever. Stunt number 2, Revolving Door. Speaking of what became of Slum Village, the question comes to mind, when does the point come when the show can't go on? After J Dilla left, the group would reform and continue rolling like nothing happened. A no one is bigger than the name kind of feel. That would be tested again when another founding member, Baatin, also leaves the group to pursue his own solo career and, as he said, to deal with personal issues he was struggling with. According to him, he was kicked out the group for these issues that none of the other members understood. Baatin was known as the spiritual side of Slum Village, always deep in thought and seemingly in search of peace. He began to experience episodes of schizophrenia and different impulses, later diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. He woke up one day from a coma in a hospital bed with a termination letter beside him from Slum Village, as he said, and life slipped even further. He began allegedly using crack cocaine and cocaine itself. He was performing under the name Baatin the Slumlord, but in 2008 got clean and reunited with the group, who by that time was a duo of Elzhi and T3. Sadly, a year later, he was found dead in his home from an apparent cocaine overdose. Slum Village kept rolling. T3, committed to continuing at all costs, recruits whoever he could find to finish working on albums. In the meantime, Elzhi becomes disgruntled and leaves the group, claiming his verses were scrapped for their upcoming 6th album, and T3 used them when Baatin was sick, now didn't care with the other members in line to replace him. A rapper by the name Young RJ joins the group and CEOs their new label of a different name. J Dilla's brother also joins in what became the cover band days of Slum Village. Illa J would also leave to pursue a solo career. With no consistent members to build around, Slum Village was really a shell of its own existence, and at that point, only releasing albums to collect a check, in my opinion. Stunt number 3, Nothing Special. This may be hard to hear for some. Salute to Ant1 for this request, but again, in my opinion, Slum Village were never going to be a Tribe Called Quest like Q-Tip and many thought, especially without J Dilla. They were always average rappers that were more liked personally than made great music. Not to say they didn't have their own lane, but that lane sometimes is a bit overcasted due to the legend hip-hop created when J Dilla died, almost as this cool thing to reference that showed you were a true hip-hop head. Rest in peace, J Dilla at some point became a verbal accessory in hip-hop, and the group attached to his history will always have a small place in that legend. That's what I think Slum Village is. A talented group, but nothing special. As far as the music, are they appreciated? Yes. But were they ever going to be next up? I don't think so. Of course, we'll never be certain, and some think they were great, and I respect that too. But chart-wise, selling albums-wise, impact, longevity, and test of time-wise, nothing special. All in all, Slum Village still deserves respect for coming from where they did and making something out of nothing in Detroit, Michigan. Unfortunately, they lost a lot early, and for these reasons, their growth was stunted. Salute, rest in peace J Dilla, rest in peace Baatin. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.